Good evening and welcome to the UpSet podcast. Tonight we are talking about answer what's coming up. Hello again, everyone. Welcome to the UpSet podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in this Sunday. We're so happy that you joined us, and we are live. And when I say we, you know I'm talking about this awesome group of people right here. Hey, guys. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, I can hear you. I can hear you.
And we can see you.
Okay, good. It's my Wi-Fi. It doesn't like me today, but it's all good.
You sound good now.
Doing?
Well, I'm doing well.
Okay.
I'm doing very well. I just left a women's retreat all weekend. It was fantabulous.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Where was it located?
That's historical.
In, Lancaster, PA, at the a resort. I forget the name of the resort, but it was really nice.
Was it Eden Resort?
Yes, that's it. It
That's
was excellent.
I just think it's historical that Pastor Marlena Debro actually retreated, because normally she knows the word advance.
So how many presentations did you make?
Isn't that great? I didn't have to be used.
Oh, really?
This is the host pastor. Just host pastor.
Oh,
you were the host.
Yeah, it was my church doing it. People were just amazed. They were so happy to see me retreat.
that's good.
Marlene, you needed a break. I'm glad you took it. I really am.
It was
Absolutely.
nice.
Well, I just flew in from the Kibble Memorial service down at Sligo Church. I feel like I literally flew in the way I was going up the highway. I'm surprised I didn't have a string of state troopers with me behind me.
Angels.
All kind of speed limits to get here, but it really was quite a memorial service for him. It was only 5.5 hours, but
are you really serious, Charles?
Yes.
You knew it would be that
Started
long.
at 11 and it ended about 4:30, 5 o'clock, somewhere in that neighborhood. But I left early, of course, but we kind of tuned in on the audio on the way back.
I knew it was going to be a little longer, but I didn't expect 5. Okay.
I find look, and all of us loved Alvin Kibble, and I mean, you couldn't find it when it comes down to just a person who was passionate about ministry and work. You're not going to find anybody more passionate about it, and he gave his all to it. But 5.5 hours?
Yeah. Well,
I saw the program, the funeral program. It was 72 pages.
72 pages, right?
Wow.
When the
72 pages.
Yes. Yeah. It was called a Alvin Kibble Chronicle. So it wasn't your typical.
It's bigger than the Book of Chronicles.
It had sort of an expose and a chronicle of his life, and
72 pages, Charles.
Yes.
Was it well attended?
72 pages and 15 videos. That's what we produced and sent for the memorial. So, yeah, it was long. But you got to see all the sides of Alvin Kibble, him personally as well as an administrator. And of course, we need to support the family as well. But
wow,
it was quite a service.
Sure. Hello, Havis. You're saying hello to us. Hi. Hope you're doing well.
Hey, Havis. Keep an eye on my money, Havis. Keep an eye on my money.
So, Chuck, was it well attended? Did they have a good turnout today?
Yes, it was a fairly good turnout. I mean, it wasn't packed, but it was a good audience. A good mixture of members and former colleagues and pastors, so forth and so on. I mean,
when did Pastor Kibble? When did he pass again?
was August. I forget the date.
Yeah.
Someone probably in the chat will.
I
Yeah,
told somebody it was a couple of months.
I
Yeah.
remember I was on
in August.
vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was August. Oh, we have some.
Yeah, and of course the
5.5 hours.
yeah, about that 5.5. The continuing situation in the Middle East is just still very heartbreaking, and with
Yes.
individuals, families losing their lives. It's terrible. I just saw a soundbite from a college student in Palestine, and she said, one day I have a nice apartment going to school every day, and now it's in total shambles, and all she had was the clothing that she had on her back.
Wow.
It's it is
Much
an
prayer
it's
to
an
be done.
unbelievable horror, but what people do not realize is that when it comes to the loss of life, especially of innocent people, that the greatest loss of civilian life in armed conflict takes place in Africa, and you never really hear about it. And it just shows that as a world we have to. Dr. Bandy Lee is a psychiatrist out of Yale, and she said, the time has come more than ever before that it is either one world or none. If we don't learn how to live together peaceably, then we will destroy ourselves. But we know that the scriptures speak to the fact that God is going to judge those who would destroy the world. And so it won't come to that, but we have to be better than this. And on that note, on the Palestinian note, my old radio station called me last week and asked if I would come back to do a special series on the Palestine-Israeli conflict. And so Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursday, I'll be back in my old time slot with just a laundry list of special guests from all over the world. Imad Kayai is the director of the Middle East Treaty Organization. Bandy Lee is the president of the World Mental Health Organization. Brian Katulis is a senior fellow at the Middle East Institute and the vice president of policy. Dr. Najwa Al-Katan is a distinguished scholar in Middle Eastern history. I mean, I've got about 12 guests who will be coming on, and it's going to be, a real conversation. So
be nice to bring them over to the UpSet podcast.
Yeah, I was going to say that's what we plan to talk about next week. So
next week. Oh, okay. Well, I'll find a guest to bring with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And remind us of your station too, Tally.
WURD AM 900 96.1 FM.
96.1.
That's my Charles Williams voice. Yes.
I was going to say
96.1.
Check that out.
Yeah, this week.
Tuesday through Thursday. What time do you show?
4 o'clock until 7. Evening drive.
4 to 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're tuning in.
I learned my radio voice. All my radio voice technique came from listening to this guy say when I was 17, saying, "This is the new experience." Charles Williams. I'm telling you the truth. That's all. Yeah. All of my affection and thoughts about how to do radio started right there with that gentleman in the bottom left square.
Oh, wow. Kudos. Hi, Kareem. Thanks for tuning in this evening. Joining us from West Palm Beach, Florida.
Nice.
Very nice. Very nice.
It's nice to have you, Kareem.
Oh, by the way, by default, I sold some merchandise.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Oh, wow.
How did that?
Yeah, I was like accosted. You're with the UpSet podcast, aren't you? Yes, I want some cups.
Yes.
This lady said, I want some cups and a t-shirt.
Really? Did she
Okay.
Did she really say that?
Yes,
Really?
she did. Well, maybe not like that, but she was a lot more gracious. But it's like I came in the lobby of the building, and there she was. She said, "You."
Hey, we need to have you walking through the lobby more often.
It was purely by accident.
That's awesome. Because we're continuing to give to a good cause. Oh, we have Dr. Daniels from North Carolina. Thanks for tuning in.
Dr. Daniels.
All right.
Tally has a beautiful radio and TV voice.
I noticed that Havis said a beautiful radio TV voice. Nothing about my face whatsoever. I mean,
I was like,
I
Let
mean,
me
that's
try
what
to get in his good graces.
that's what the doctor said when I was born. He told my mother, you know, your son has a perfect. He has a face for radio, you know, and so
Not when you were born. Not when you were
yeah,
born.
you know, no, I was homely when I was born. I was so homely that the doctor actually smacked my mom.
Oh,
Oh,
you know what, Sal? I'm not even.
where's my drum roll? Where
I
is
know,
it?
right? This
Need it.
guy. He's something else. But no, seems like a busy week, a lot going on in the world, and
It is indeed.
we have I'm sorry, I'm looking at some of the comments. Progressive Black Talk Media word hashtag word.
That's
Yep,
true. Yeah,
that's our
that
talk.
is us.
Okay, so tonight, if you couldn't tell, we have a very important subject that we are going to talk about, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And those who've peeped the title ahead of time, we're talking about surviving breast cancer. We actually have two guests who are going to be joining us very shortly who are survivors, and we're going to be hearing a little bit about their journey. And we're inviting those of you who are in the chat who have experienced or you're a breast cancer survivor, or you have family members who have been through the experience. We want this to be interactive, so we want to hear from you as well as we talk about this subject, because we recognize, I always say this every awareness month, that we have the awareness month because it's very important to bring awareness to certain topics that sometimes can be overlooked. And breast cancer awareness, I don't know if you guys are familiar with all the stats, but according to the National Breast Cancer Foundation, 1 in 8 women in the United States will be diagnosed with breast
Wow.
cancer in her lifetime. And in 2023, which is our current year, it's estimated that 297,790 women and
Wow.
2,800 men will be diagnosed with invasive breast cancer. So pretty much chances are we all know at least one person who has been personally affected by breast cancer. So this is something that touches home in many of our lives. But there is hope. And this is one of the reasons why breast cancer awareness is a thing, because when it's caught early, the 5-year relative survival rate is 99%. So we're going to be talking a little bit more later about early detection and various treatment methods, because as you know, there's been a lot of research on breast cancer. And so we'll kind of hear some of what's out there now compared to what used to be. So there are a lot more options, and we'll even talk to our guest about the options they chose and what that journey was like for them. So we're going to actually dive into inviting our guest on. First, we're going to invite Catrice Davis Ford. Hi, Catrice. Thanks for joining
Hi.
us.
Hi, how are you?
Hi,
Awesome.
You
Catrice.
look familiar. I know.
Yes, you're going to see another familiar face. We also have with us Dr. Veronica Leftridge. Hi, thanks for joining us.
Yay. Thank
know,
you for
See
having
your
me.
face.
I'm excited to share my testimony.
Amen.
Oh,
Amen.
there we are.
I'm
Hi
putting,
there.
Hello.
we like to put our guests at the top here. So just by way of introduction, oh,
Let me hold up our guest. Okay. There you go. Yeah.
yes, by way of introduction, Catrice, if you can just tell everyone what church you attend within Allegheny East.
Rehoboth SDA Church. I've
Oh,
been a member there for quite some years.
All right, and for those who don't know where Rehoboth is,
In Reading, Pennsylvania.
all right,
Mhm. You just saved a lot of people from going down to Delaware looking for your church. You know.
And we also have Dr. Leftridge, who has spent a lot of time in AAC. That's where I met you in AAC territory. But tell us where you're currently located.
Sure. I am actually a member of First Seventh-day Adventist Church in Huntsville, Alabama. And I've been here since 2010. But Allegheny East will always be my home.
So you have to shout out your home church.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I started at Mount Olivet in Camden, New Jersey.
Oh.
And so, but I'm here with my husband and my daughter Ebony and her grandkids and my grandkids. So I'm thankful to be able to be here to share my testimony.
Awesome. Awesome. We
Amen.
thank you for being willing and vulnerable enough to share this. We're hoping that we can shed some light on some of the perspectives that we, those of us who've not experienced it don't have. So we're going to start off by kind of charting what the journey was like for you. Let's start with diagnosis, because we know that there's several methods. Of course, as women, we're encouraged to do self-check, search for lumps. We get our annual mammograms and things of that nature. Can you share with us, and we'll start with you, Catrice, how your diagnosis came about? How did you find out?
So I found out I was doing a routine self breast exam, and I noticed a small lump the size of a pea, in my right breast. And at that time, I called my doctor and I told her what my concerns were. And it was very sensitive to the touch. And so she made an appointment for me to come into the office.
Okay.
And at our visit, she examined me and she felt the lump as well. And so she referred me to a surgeon. And from there, I was able to make an appointment with the surgeon. He discussed what would happen from this point. He said he would run some tests to see what was going on, MRI, and he also did he did, ran some other tests as well.
Okay.
So a biopsy, that kind of thing,
Right.
to see what was going on.
Okay. So initially, I guess we can all imagine, but what was your initial reaction? Because everyone responds differently to hearing, something could be an issue here. We need to
Right. I think for the most part, I didn't want to get all up in arms, until we knew exactly what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
So after they did that biopsy and sent it to pathology, and it came back that it was cancerous.
Mm.
And so from there, he discussed what my treatment options were. He said I could have a lumpectomy, have the lump removed, and then from there, he could refer me to an oncologist.
Okay.
Catrice, what was the length of time from the time you did your self-examination until the time that they were able to determine exactly what it was? How long a period was that?
Well, I will say it seemed like it was forever, but I found the lump in March, and it took a few weeks. Seemed like this, they take some time to schedule these appointments. At least that's the way I felt, and but I was able to see a doctor as soon as they could fit me in. At least my OBGYN just to determine that it was actually a lump and it wasn't my imagination, because I had just had a mammogram 2 months prior. And so, but it was so tiny, I guess, that the mammogram just really couldn't pick it up. And so I would say the length of time was just maybe like 6 weeks from the time that I found the lump into the time that I was able to actually have the surgery.
Okay. I just have one other question. I want to ask both our guests this question. Could the discovery of the lump have been something else? In other words, could you fellas say, oh, it's not this, it's that? Is there any reason to believe that the lump could have been formed by something else?
Yes, that's a possibility.
And just to respond also, hi there, Brother Williams. I just, for me, and I guess I want to just share with everyone else that even if you think it's something else, that you should still get it checked. Like for myself, I was doing my breast exams, not regularly, but every woman should do their breast exams, of course, every month. but I wasn't doing it every month. I might have been skipping a month or two. But I had just had my mammogram the year before, and I was coming up to my next one. And when I felt mine, uh, it was the size of a quarter. I
Oh,
said quarter. Well, no, let me go back. It was size of a nickel. I'll say a nickel because a quarter is kind of big. A size of a nickel, and then so I wanted it to confirm. So I wanted someone else to examine him. So I went and I made an appointment with my primary doctor. And so that time frame that you were asking us, it was a week between that time that I felt it and the time that I was able to get an appointment because I explained to him I needed to see the doctor right away. So the nurse practitioner did examine me, and she did confirm that she felt the lump as well. I know, and then from there, we made that appointment for me to have a biopsy of that. And so when they did the biopsy, the staff that does the technicians that perform these biopsies, they trying to keep you calm, and they say, well, it's probably not anything, and that's what you want to hear, but when the results come back to say that it's cancerous, that's another story.
Mm-hmm. And what was your reaction, Dr. Leftridge? Because one of the things I know about you is that you always have a way of making negative situations, looking at the positives in negative situations. So, what was your initial reaction when it was confirmed that it was cancerous?
Well, first, a lot of times when you think of cancer, and at that time, I would say I want to live. I want to live. I want to live to see my grandchildren, graduate. I want to see my children, with their families. Those are the things that was running through my mind, and that I did not want to die.
Mm.
That was something that I wanted. And so when the news occurred, that it was positive, and of course, you know, I had my first oncology appointment. And so when I didn't tell them I was a nurse. And so one of the things that, they said, because I had triple negative breast cancer, and I guess, you're asking me a question about that.
now what does that mean, Dr. Leftridge?
Most of the breast cancers are fed by the hormones. So you have your estrogen, your testosterone, and so those women that have breast cancer that are not triple negative, that's what it shows. Like the receptors are mine that were not um, did not grow because of the hormones, if that makes sense. So and it's like 10 to 15% women have triple negative. But what they do say about triple negative, it's very aggressive.
Mm.
So
Okay.
when I had my appointment and the doctor, said, we don't know much about, these were his exact words. And I've been cancer free for since 2015. And
Okay.
so he said, we don't know much about it, but we're going to treat you with these cocktails. And so as soon as he said those words that they don't know much about it, the Holy Spirit just spoke to me. Like my husband was in the room with me, but it was like the Holy Spirit just said out loud, well, they don't know much about it. Then, why don't you just try holistic treatment? And so for me, I'm a believer that, if you have the disease, you have to do something with the tumor, right? The tumor will continue to grow. And so I had the surgery now. I wanted a mastectomy, where the removal of the breast.
Hmm.
And my surgeon said, well, let's just try to remove the tumor. And so that's a lumpectomy, right? And so they removed it. And when I woke up, the first thing I just checked my chest, and I had both my breasts with me, right? And so I was thankful that they chose, that he was able to say, hey, because a lot of women don't realize that, that the lumpectomy, if you get the cancer and where the cancer was, that if this margins, which is around the area of the tumor, if it's clear, meaning that when they removed the tumor, there was no cancer cells around that area, that the surgery was a success. And so once that happened, then I was able to go back and say, okay, Veronica, the tumor is removed. Now what's your next step? Because normally the next step is chemo.
Yeah.
Normally the next step is radiation.
I hate I don't want to I hate to interrupt you, but I mean, as a man, there's a question I want to ask, because I remember I was in my I guess 30s before I realized that men also get breast cancer,
Mm-hmm.
and the question I wanted to ask is, where is the cancer actually? I mean, because when you think of a woman's breast, you think of the milk ducts, those things that allow for a woman to actually lactate. Men don't have that. So, or I stand to be corrected if we do. So where is the actual cancer occurring? Is it in the
It's
fat cells of the breast, or the muscle cells of the chest lining, or?
so you have tissue, you have the tissue in your chest. Everybody has, and so the cancer.
I have mammary tissue in there.
Yeah, everybody has, yes, you have a chest, just that yours is not as developed as the
Mm,
women. And so,
wow.
but but yes, men have a breast. Men have breasts. We call it the chest. You call them chest, but yes, you have. And so the cancer can thrive in there. So mine was on the lower part of my breast, and so it's for men. You still do your exams just like women. And I know, but I just wanted just to emphasize one of the things when I
Mm,
did find out about it. One of the things I had to bring to my family was that I prefer quality of life over quantity of life. And so when I talked to my family about that, because, it's one thing, living, but the quality of life. And so my family, agreed that they would go with that journey with me. And that's how I selected the holistic route so I did not have chemo and I did not have radiation.
now, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Charles.
Sorry. So it was important for you to get that support
Mm-hmm.
to help you in your journey and your decision making.
Yeah. Yes.
And also as a side, Natasha, I just wanted to make it clear to anyone that's listening to this to please, anything that's said or suggested, that we recommend that you see your own physician, that anything we say is purely observational, and we're just sharing. It's not giving directions on that.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, I just want to ask, in your treatment process and your examination, both of you can feel free to answer, was there any question or discussion about how you got the cancer?
Mm,
So for me, so as I talked to the oncologist and spoke to the surgeon was the one that ordered the what is it called? It's the genetic cancer testing, because as I discussed my family history um, with the doctor, he decided to do the testing based on the number of people in my family that passed away from cancer. So for me, they decided to do the family genetic testing.
Yeah, and as far as for myself, so my grandmother had breast cancer. My mother's twin, my aunt, had breast cancer. And a lot of times families don't really know, their medical history. I don't think we talk about it enough. And it's very important that, not just who you are, but, what your makeup is as well.
Dr. Leftridge, was your doctor favorable to your holistic treatments versus, regular medicine, chemo, and radiation? Did he or she receive that okay?
Well, no. The first, for well, as far as the surgeon was concerned, I did. I just asked him. I just asked him a question. Do you know anybody that have done it holistically? That was only a question. I hadn't even decided what I was going to do. I didn't tell him I wasn't having the surgery, but he got very angry. I mean, it was like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde personality where he said, I've had many of patients that thought that they could do it, naturally and drinking or carrot juice and, and it was just, it was a negative experience with the surgeon in that regard.
Really?
But for the oncologist, his attitude was, well, I can just tell you right now that I fired my first oncologist, and only because one, he's the one that said, they don't know much about it, but we're going to give you these cocktails. But his mannerism in the room was unacceptable for me. So, here it was. I'm just hearing this news. I'm, teary eyed. And, he was like, my hair is very long. And so he says, oh, well, I see that your hair is very long, but, the chemo is going to make it come out. That is what he said. This is the first visit now.
Wow.
And so everyone knows that, chemo, you lose your hair, but the mannerism in which he did it, he didn't even address my feelings, like how I was feeling at the time.
Yeah.
And so when I say I fired him, I went home to think about it. And I called back and I said, I do not want Dr. So-and-so. And so I just want people to know that you have control over your health, that you can, if you do not like your doctors, you can get another one. And so one of my breast cancer survivor friends said, well, Veronica, just ask this question because you're going to need a physician to order tests, right? So they said to ask your physician, will they follow you even though you don't follow their treatment? And so I was able to find somebody to do that.
Oh, very good.
That's great.
Well, that's interesting because I was going to ask this question anyway, but that kind of leads me into it a little earlier. Did you feel that there was a bias against you as a Black female?
Oh, good question.
Well,
We'll ask you to.
at the time that for the oncologist that I fired, I don't know if race was involved, but when I looked at the one that I did hire as my doctor, I noticed that, he tried to play on the emotions of my husband. And so, even though he said that, he would follow me and, even though I don't follow his treatment, he would, talk to my husband directly while I'm in the room and say, if she was my mom or my aunt, I would want to, have them do the treatment, And so just talking to some of my Black friends, they said they experienced the same thing where the doctors would try to play on the emotions of the spouse, and they would say this what they said to my husband. So,
Was this team aware that you were a healthcare professional?
no, not at the time. Even though it's in the record, you had to write your profession. He did not. The first one did not know. I don't believe the second one because I don't normally share because I want to be I'm the patient. I don't want to be looked at as a nurse, because I'm dealing with the same thing my brothers and sisters are dealing with when it comes to them having the same diagnosis.
Gotcha.
And Catrice, I wanted to just jump in and see if you had a similar experience or what your treatment choices were as well.
So the surgeon that I was referred to was very supportive and very explanatory about all the treatments that were out there, what he was going to do. He did a lot of hand holding, and I was really grateful because I was scared. Once he told me that it was cancer and that he wanted what the treatment, the course of action that he wanted to take, he asked me if I agreed with it. So it wasn't like he gave me options and told me to choose what I wanted to do, go home and discuss it with my husband and to choose what I wanted to do. So I feel like he was very supportive. And he also told me that he would be referring me to an oncologist. And after the surgery, I went to see the oncologist, and the oncologist gave me his perspective on what I should do as well. And he told me it was stage 1, even though they had done he said because of the screening, the health screening that he had done, and saw that, I have a history of cancer, my family has a history of cancer. He felt that I should do the chemotherapy and the radiation therapy. And because I just want to say that in 1996, I did lose my mother to cancer. And so prior to that, she was diagnosed 12 years prior to that, and they told her she had 6 months to live. And she went the homeopathic way, and she lived for 12 years.
Wow.
So because of, the history and the information that I had prior to that, I decided not to do the chemotherapy. I decided to do the radiation therapy. And so I did the lumpectomy, and I did choose the radiation therapy. And the oncologist seemed to support the decision I made. At first, he was like, well, I'm just giving you all the facts. And it sounded like he was heading in the direction of, like a thumbs down, but he also said that, at the end of the day, the decision is yours. So my experience was a little different.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. It's hard to say fascinating, but the human body as an organism is fascinating. I keep hearing this thing about the BRCA1 gene and how it's an indicator for some women when it comes to breast cancer. I don't know what a BRCA1 gene is from a BRCA2 gene or BRCA3. So what is that, and how does it become an indicator?
The question is for any one of us?
Yeah, I'm going for the experts.
Well, I want people to understand that because we are cancer survivors, that we're not experts.
Okay.
And I want to put that out there because, and even for nurses, you can be in one field and not in that field where you're the expert. So I want to put it out there that I'm not an expert. And by all means, in regarding, but normally the BRCA test is those that you want family members that have a high incidence of breast cancer to take the test to identify if they are carrying the gene where they can possibly have breast cancer. So they do recommend that. I know that the American Cancer Society has free testing a lot of times, depending on where you live. And so I do encourage individuals who have cancer in their family, breast cancer, that they get that test.
Can men do men have a BRCA gene, or I mean, I wouldn't know a BRCA gene from Levi's jeans. I mean, but do we have it? I mean,
so anyone that has like the family history. So if you have a family history of breast cancer in your family, then my recommendation would be to get that test to check to see if you have that gene. From what I know.
Dr. Leftridge, though you are a survivor now, are you still doing holistic medicine just to continue that path of wellness?
I am. So I had to, even though I had the surgery, I had to do something else other than just having the surgery. So my margins were clear. And so that was a blessing. But the spiritual component was that one, I believed that I was healed by the hem of Jesus's garment. And so I was anointed before I had surgery. And I never say I'm in remission because I believe that I've been healed. Now, I tell people that it was my journey, and I tell people I'm thankful that the Lord entrusted me to have that journey. And so, because he never gives you more than you can bear. He never gives you anything where he doesn't think that you're going to go through. And so, for me, it just allowed me to go to a lifestyle center. So I went to a lifestyle center called UCHE Pines, UCHEE Pines in Seal, Alabama. And I stayed there for about 14 days. And I want to tell people out there, when sometimes you want to do something, but you think that you can't afford it, right? And so, and initially, and I found out how much it costs, and I was like, there's no way that I can afford it. But my kids put a group, a GoFundMe out there, and I got their mama to that center. And so I was able to do that. And so what it did for me, because it's not just physical when you have that, it's emotional. And so in that place, I learned how the cause and effect, right? So I had to think back. Y'all were asking, what parts in the family, what was happening, what might have caused it. And so, yes, hereditary might have been one of it, but I had to look at, was I around smokers, which I was. My grandma, she smoked all the time. So, you have your first and second, and then you have your third hand smoke.
Yeah.
And the third hand smoke is those people that just carried on their clothes and you're just around them. And so I looked at that. And so, so when I did those 14 days, I learned how to cook holistically, where I was a vegetarian. And you guys, I'm learning even till this day that really a lot of us vegetarians eat up too much carbs, right? And so
I'm a witness.
And so I was learning how to cook, first time I ever had muscadine grapes. I don't know if anybody know about muscadine grapes, but they are very healthy. So you look at the grapes and then you look at the muscadine grapes. They are very good for you as far as your immune system. I learned that, certain vegetables that were high to fighting off infection, your peas. So I became a lover of peas. I became a lover of garlic. I became a lover of just eating a lot of greens and just those type of foods that will help boost your immune system. So yes, I was a vegetarian, but I wasn't quite like eating that amount of food. And so I was eating fish. And now I remember I told you I have triple negative, so they don't know much about triple negative. So one of my friends who are a survivor, they said, Veronica, eating fish has a lot of mercury. And so you don't know which fish is high in mercury. And you don't know if that mercury is giving you a higher risk of cancer cells. Yeah. So I had to get rid of fish. So I tell people I've been fish free for about 9 years. And I'm telling you, if you want to live, God is going to give you that desire. And so I had the desire to live. So if it was between living and giving up fish, my salmon, and all that stuff, then, I was like, okay, Lord, I want to live. And so I had to remove that from my diet because of the type of cancer that I had.
So Dr. Leftridge, I want to ask, and Catrice as well, during your journey and the observation of your illness, was there any discussion by your medical team at the time about lifestyle and nutrition? Was there any discussion, any questioning, what do you eat? I'm sure they ask you if you smoke or whatever, but was there any kind of a deep dive into lifestyle? And did they question any of that, or they just went to a diagnosis and then a treatment?
Catrice, wanna go ahead?
I think initially they ask, when they ask you about your medical history, they ask about your lifestyle, they ask a lot of questions just to try to get to the diagnosis of it all. So they did ask me quite a few questions is in reference to the lifestyle that I had. If I drank, if I smoked, if I was around smokers, they really, there was a whole list of questions that they asked.
Oh,
Hmm.
okay.
And those were questions that they asked everybody. But as far as them wanting to improve my health, no, there was no discussion as to okay, if it was all okay, take this as far as treatment, as far as the chemo and the radiation. And so it wasn't until I went to the lifestyle center that kind of gave me just a jump start on what I need to do when I go back. So I've been trying to live the life that we need to live, like a diabetic. The diabetic knows that what they need to do, and so as a cancer survivor, especially if you're going holistic, there's some things you just exercise, sleep, and eating the right foods.
Now, Dr. Leftridge, real quick, when you went back for your 5-year checkup, to make sure you were cancer free, how did the doctor feel when you chose the route of holistic medicine?
Hmm. Well, I celebrate every year. So when you go back for the 5th year, they don't say much, right? Even for that year that I went holistic and went back for that doctor's visit, you know, they were very quiet, didn't say much. And so since that time, the Lord blessed me because that second doctor retired, and so I had to select another doctor, and I love her because she's listens, she communicates very well, and she just says keep doing what you're doing. So I'm blessed to be able to give that report.
Before we go too far, Dr. Leftridge, you made mention of the fact a couple of times that you were given that they recommended a cocktail. We got calls in from several of the members who were going out to buy some Jack Daniels. Could you please clarify what you mean by a cocktail so that some of our folks will not be taking early communion upon your recommendation?
Yeah, so there are several chemo drugs that they put together, and they call it a cocktail. And so I don't recommend anybody going out getting no Jack Daniels because that's not what we're talking about today. But
That's right. This is
but
only if you're drinking UpSet cocktail here.
but yeah, so there's several drugs that they say fight off infection, and I just want everybody has their story and everybody has their own journey, and so sometimes I felt guilty actually going holistic and having some of the friends who did not go that route and who are having complications from radiation and chemo. And so sometimes Satan tries to, sneak in there and say, well, Veronica, you didn't go that route. But I just have to praise God for the route that I took.
And Catrice, if I could ask you that, I know you said your mom, holistic medicine, you survived 12 years after you did radiation treatment. Did you then do holistic medicine?
So yes, I did. And as a matter of fact, she went back to the doctor that her life was a testimony because she went back to the doctor to show the doctor after he told her that she was crazy to take the method that she took. And so she had to go back 10 years later. She went back to the same doctor to let him know what holistic medicinal remedies can do for the body. But, as far as I'm concerned, I just felt like the radiation therapy, because it was a stage 1, I felt like that would work for me. And I coupled it with, after that was over, I have 2 aunts who are into holistic medicine. And my 2 aunts they just pretty much put me on a regimen, and they told me what I needed to do. They ordered herbs and things like that. And so because of them and my family support, I was able to have a regimen of health things that can help me live long.
Now, I want to ask you a little bit more about the radiation process for you. What did that entail? How long did you have to do it? What were some side effects you may have experienced, or what was that?
So it was for 12 weeks, and I would go a couple of times a week, and it made me feel, I experienced fatigue. It had a few, I was just tired all the time. I had no energy. It discolored the area, on my right, on the area that I had the radiation therapy. It was burned kind of.
Did they put it right in the spot, Catrice, or did it go through your whole body?
Right in the spot. They removed the spot. They removed tissue the size of an egg. Even though the cancer was the size of a pea, they wanted to get as much as possible, and it hadn't spread to my lymph nodes.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go ahead, Charles. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to ask quickly. So it sounds like your team was very informative, along with your own research and study, and I hear you saying some very specific things. So my question is, after you were diagnosed and then a treatment was recommended, was that a motivator for you to do your own personal research into what's going on with you?
Absolutely. But one of the things that my OBGYN told me not to do, was to get overwhelmed by what I see on the internet, because there's so much information on the internet. So I mostly talk to people who had experienced it before, and my family who, my two aunts, one is 79 and one is 80, and they believe in holistic medicine, and so they had plenty of information to give me.
To both of you ladies, and I know that I've spoken of men for a while. My high school football coach died of breast cancer. We were all shocked, but the real shock came, Charles, I don't know if you remember, when Richard Roundtree, the man who played Shaft, when he got breast cancer. And that's when, if Shaft can get breast cancer, I mean, because he's a complicated man and no one understood him but his woman. If he could get breast cancer, we figured that all of us, thank you for getting that, Dr. Leftridge, but that we realize that all of us are susceptible to it. Did either of you run into any men who were being treated for breast cancer? And is the treatment regimen the same for a man as it would be for a woman?
I don't know anyone personally that had breast cancer.
Okay.
Neither did I.
Okay. And
so I'm always trying to shake things up. I want to know, does there seem to be and thank you for your personal stories, it's very helpful, but I want to know if the medical treatment process for this illness, if there is any reason to suspect, or maybe there are some data points that suggest that there is a discrepancy with African American women, and I'll just say others. Okay. Are there any treatment discrepancies? Are there any survival rate discrepancies? Is the level of care and treatment better for others than for African Americans? And does that impact on survivability? Either one, if you happen to know that.
I know for me, I don't have the research in front of me to answer that question. But I believe that if you're low income and you have a lack of knowledge of being able to choose your own doctor, or knowing that you don't have to accept everything that your doctor says, there might be a gap there in regards to treatment, because I know back in the day, and it still happens today, that a lot of people trust their doctors.
Mhm.
And for all you that are doctors out there, I'm not talking about you, but there are doctors that,
Not
they have to make
you.
a living too, right? That's
Mhm.
all I'm going to say. They have to make a living too. And so with no patients, there's no paycheck, right? And so just, I think we need to put it out there. Like what you're doing today is giving people, just another platform to say, hey, well, these are some choices that I could possibly make. And you're not condoning the choices that we made, but at least you're allowing them to hear there are other methods of treatment, and there's survivors that have done it. I mean, there are plenty of survivors that have went holistic. And so to answer that question, and without having the, evidence-based research to say, if, there's been a disparity between, low income, high income, or color versus the other, our cousins, you just, you don't want to have it, know that it's happening, but we know that it is.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's important for individuals to know when they are going through this discovery of breast cancer and treatments and that sort of thing, and not be afraid to question the answer. Because sometimes, there may be some physicians who would not like you to question the answer, their answer. As you said, that you sort of had that experience. And I say all that to say that do as much research as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Look at papers and studies if you take the time, if you're really interested, because I'm not saying to challenge physicians or challenge oncologists, but this is an ongoing research.
Mm-hmm.
And I did want to talk about the discrepancy with African American women versus Caucasian women, or maybe Indian women. I did have some
They're
data
called, they're
points,
called
but
cousins now.
the dog ate my homework, so I'm sorry I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have that. But I did want to talk about that because I've heard stories
Mm-hmm.
um, in fact, I heard one story from a Black female physician who felt that there was discrepancy
Mm-hmm.
because she was African American and she wasn't getting the care and the support and the knowledge that she should have gotten. I know it sounds like I'm pulling the race card, but let's face it, folk. People are prejudiced,
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
and that can go to all levels of professionalism.
And just to
My
add to
suggestion
that,
is just be aware.
right, and just to add to that, Chuck, Brother Williams, I know that a lot of times it's even how they talk to you. So, if you don't feel that you're respected by your physician, you might want to look at, getting another one. If they don't give you, allow you to make a decision, because it's you that have the ultimate choice of what needs to be done. So a lot of times you will get physicians to tell you what is going to happen, but you definitely need to be the one. You are your own advocate. And so you need to make sure that you have a voice in your care.
Mhm.
Dr.
You know,
Leftridge, real quick. I know Tally, you got a question. Just real quick. What was your stage of cancer?
I was stage 2.
Okay.
Mhm.
Sorry, Tally. Go right ahead.
no, I was just someone had put on. I've seen it twice now about pH levels, acidity and alkalinity of the body. I hear about this a lot as to whether or not if your body is too acidic, that whether or not it is conducive to creating certain illnesses like cancer. I don't know a lot about acidity or alkalinity of the body, but did that come up for either one of you? I saw it asked a couple of times.
Well, I know for myself, when I went to the Lifestyle Center, they recommended alkaline water
Hmm.
because they said that for cancer thrives on acidic environment. And so, but you have to make sure you're eating foods as well. So foods, your vegetables, and it's not just the water, but eating your vegetables will also help you keep an alkaline environment. So I'm still drinking it now. I don't drink any other water unless I have to. But I go to not sponsoring Whole Foods, but I'll go to Whole Foods and have my 5-gallon jar, and I'll fill up my water. It's a gallon. It's a $1 per gallon, and I have a dispenser at home, and that's what we use.
Or you can, or like my friend Jesse said, he's
Let
a
me
trained
ask Catrice
Jehovah
a
Witness.
question.
But go ahead.
I've been dying to say this or reveal it. Since your treatment and you being aware of nutrition and real food, and if you don't mind, I'm going to slip this in that you're an outstanding caterer. Okay. So
Oh,
you
really?
With your own profession, has that affected, your processes of catering and providing food for individuals, suggesting that maybe there is, there's benefit in eating real food.
Right.
And when I say real food, I mean versus ultra processed foods and
Right.
a lot of sugar and stuff like that.
So I would say yes. My mother was a vegetarian chef, and so I got into vegetarianism very early. I was raised a vegetarian, so but she was really into not so much of the soy or the gluten and things like that. She cooked a lot fresh. We had a fruit stand around the corner. I was raised in Brooklyn, so right around the corner was a fruit stand, and we on Flatbush, and she would send us there almost every day to get fresh fruits, vegetables, and that's how we lived. So from that influenced how I, decided when I started my business, my vegetarian catering business, to offer people, a healthy option versus whatever else is out there. Yeah, so I would say yes.
I want to make sure I get this right, Catrice. You are a caterer?
Yes, vegetarian caterer.
And you didn't bring any samples for the host of this program.
Well, Latasha has tried many of my delectable.
I'm trying to do a little plug here because I know she has done outstanding work, and a lot of prestigious organizations have her. Does this sound like a commercial? I think it is. But it is related to our lifestyle. It's good that you have incorporated your thought process into preparing food for people, healthy foods that will promote, health and help the immune system through that process of eating good food.
Right, absolutely. One thing I will say, I just wanted to say that I know you're going to probably ask this question, but emotionally for me, how I handled my emotions.
Right.
I want to say when I got the diagnosis, I experienced a plethora of emotions right away. But one thing that was really firm and solid in me was that my belief, and I know Veronica made mention of that as well. Just my belief in Jesus, knowing what he's able to do if he so chose to do that. But I remember standing at the window in the kitchen when I got the call, and I was feeling those emotions I was feeling, but almost instantly I heard a song, and the song was "My Life Is in Your Hands" by
Sing it for us, Catrice. Sing it for us. I mean,
not at this time.
Oh, okay.
but the words are profound. You don't have to worry. Don't be afraid. Joy comes in the morning. Troubles, they don't last always. There's a friend in Jesus. I mean, the song was meant for me, and it's been my mantra ever since. And something else that encouraged me was 2 Corinthians 12:9. And he said unto me, my grace is sufficient for you. My strength is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I glorify in my infirmities that the power of Christ may rest on you. So those those things was the things that got me through. So I just wanted to say that. I didn't want this
No.
program to end
That's
without
great.
me
I'm
saying
glad you
that.
said that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
very-
great.
The sermonette and the music was brought to you by Catrice, the caterer, where no fish have to fry and no chicken has to die.
Right.
Okay.
I do want to. There's so many questions, and there are a couple in the chat, and I'll get to those. I know we have to wrap up soon, but I really wanted to talk a little bit about the support system. Anytime we deal with a program like this, we want to also tap into how our church communities, or even our families, can assist. So I want to know from you all. For those listening who may have people in their congregations who've currently received a diagnosis, what kind of support is needed, or what do you appreciate while you're going through that process? How can people support you in a way that really helps?
Well, Tasha, I'm glad you asked that question. A lot of times people don't know what to say when they hear that you've been diagnosed with cancer,
Yeah.
and they're afraid that they might say the wrong thing.
Mhm.
But I'm encouraging everyone out there that if this person's your friend, even if they're not your friend, just letting them know that you're praying for them. I know, my family is in New Jersey, and that week, believe of my surgery, my sister had delivered food to my house, by just calling, a company that delivers food. It had the restaurant. They went and picked it up, my favorite food, and they dropped it off. And so there's many ways you can show support to those that are going through, just that stage one of, when you hear about it, you're in shock. But during the time of the surgery, just being there and calling them, sending them cards. I know for First Church, the elders came and had that anointing. So my pastor came over, Pastor W. Snell at the time, and they had prayer with me. Pastor Lampkin was there after my surgery. When I woke up from surgery, my pastor was there. So that meant a lot to myself and to my family. So, and those that might not have a church family, before you go through, I recommend that you find a church family that, even if it's just you decide that you want to turn your life over to Jesus and the next day is for surgery, I suggest that you have that support system, because you really need it. So I really appreciated the friends that I had, the survivors. I still participate in we have a breast cancer 5K. And so, I'm still participating in that. So one ways that people can help is just helps, those organizations that support those that have breast cancer.
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
And I would say the same thing for me. We have a lady that's in our church right now who has been diagnosed with cancer, and so the church has surrounded her. We send baskets of food, baskets of fruit. We're praying for her, flowers and cards. So we're supporting her. She has a GoFundMe right now because of the treatment that she has to get. But that's how we are supporting our church member. And my family supported me. They came out. They was at the hospital when I had the surgery. They brought flowers and all kinds of things to help support in the recovery process. And also, I think because of that, and because of the experience that I had, I feel like, I mean, we currently have a ministry in our church. It's a bereavement or sick ministry where we send out cards, baskets, and flowers to anyone who has had a loss, or anyone that has a family member who is struggling with is sick or things like that. Also, the food pantry distribution is another way, that I give support to the community as well as receive support. So, and then I also participate with the 5K. Each year, my family comes out and we get together. We have our team, Franny's House of Love, which was my mother's name. And we walk every year and commemorating his survivorship.
Oh, wow.
That's my family.
All of those folks are your family?
That's all my family.
Very nice.
Well, I'm not gonna mess with you because there's a bunch of those folks. Y'all travel in numbers.
Large group.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I love that. I do want to I know I saw you Veronica responding to some of the questions in the chat, so that's great. I know up here there are a couple of questions, and there were some of you who were sharing your stories, and we thank you for doing that, of family members who experience breast cancer. But there was a question for you earlier on, Dr. Leftridge, about because you went through that holistic route, did you avoid a lot of the side effects, or the things that come along with? Oh yeah. So did you avoid, here it is. Did you avoid the side effects since you did not have chemo radiation? So even as you were going through that whole holistic process, were you experiencing any side effects from just the cancer itself, or did you bypass it?
Well, I had so my surgery was April the 12th of 2015. And so the tumor was removed. So because I didn't have chemo or radiation, that time between the time I had surgery and the time I went to the lifestyle center was about maybe 2 months. And so you don't have side effects. Once the tumor is removed, you don't have any side effects. And I know different doctors do have different practices. So like I had a friend whose wife was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer, and her doctor immediately gave her an internal portal for the chemo immediately, before she ever even had surgery to have the tumor removed. She had chemo immediately. And by that year, unfortunately, she had both breasts removed, and still getting the chemo and stuff. And by that year, she had died. And so you do have side effects with the chemo and the radiation. A lot of times people do not die from the radiation and the chemo, but they die from the side effects. So my aunt who had chemo and radiation, one of the things that it interferes with your cardiovascular system. And so with your heart. And so that was one of my questions that I had for that first doctor. And I asked him, I said, well, if I get and this is the radiologist I was talking to, if you're going to give me, because it was in my left breast, if you're going to give me radiation, how is it that my heart's not going to be affected? Right. And he was like, oh, well, we have new technology now that we can pinpoint the size, but it was the radiation and the chemo that caused her health to decline, and she died from cardiovascular issues from that.
Sorry to hear that.
Well,
And
my final comment.
I apologize for those that are. So when you guys are talking, we tend not to look at the questions, and I actually had my screen on private chat versus comments. So I just saw all the comments. So I apologize for those that I might not have responded to, but I'm trying to be like good student and look and listen to the questions from the platform guests.
Well, my final statement to both of you is thank you for sharing with us your personal and private information, experiences and information. And clearly you both had, different experiences, which is all the more reason for us to suggest that if you suspect that you have breast cancer, or if you have it and you know it and you're going through a treatment process, please make sure you contact your healthcare professional to ask all the questions. And as you clearly stated, Dr. Leftridge, don't be afraid to ask those questions, even if they get irritated. It's your body, it's your health, and you deserve to have the most accurate and correct answers. So for those of you that are listening to the podcast and are going through an experience, if you're not happy with your health professional team, get someone else.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Troy,
Thank you very much for sharing this. This is very, very helpful.
I know we're about to close. But
takeaways. I just want to make sure
Mhm.
that when you get your mammograms, you ask for a 3D mammogram, because it's more definitive as far as what they can see. So 3D mammogram is my recommendation.
I just wanted to give a pleasant shout out to Jacqueline Bush Riley, who has made a couple of comments. She is a part of my former church family at West, but also just a really good friend and like a big sister to me when I was coming along. And she went through this experience herself, and along with another one of our members, Regina Simpson, and both of them came through it. And if you didn't know better, you would think that their treatment was health reform because they looked beautiful the whole time that they went through.
Yes, thank you for shouting her out. There was also Marilyn who shared that she is a breast cancer survivor as well. She had stage 0, and we talked about stage 1, stage 2, but she said she had stage 0, which we don't hear about a lot, I guess. So thank you for sharing that, and praise God for your survivorship as well. And some of you have shared other stories, and that's why I always tell you guys, you have to go back and read the comments on YouTube and Facebook, because although we don't get to share them all, it's kind of great to be able to connect with our online community. And we thank all of you for sharing in the chat, but we thank our guests especially for coming on and sharing a little part of your story. We know there's so much more to it. We only got to the tip of the iceberg, but we praise God that He has sustained your life and that you are here to tell the story and help others.
Nice meeting you both. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. And as we continue with breast cancer awareness, I just want to challenge everyone, let's just not let these months come and go. Let's do something intentional about learning a little bit more, educating others, hosting forums like this at your own church, so we can provide awareness. And, I read earlier the statistic that prevention, if it's caught early enough, you can avoid, going through a lot. And you can also be a survivor if you are catch it early. So let's do what we can to make sure we're taking care of our health. All right, we went a little over today, but for a good cause. And once again, ladies, thank you so much. We appreciate both of you.
Yes, thank you, ladies.
Glad to be here.
Yes. And those we can continue the dialogue in the chat. I still see people sharing, and that's fine. We can continue the dialogue even when we're off the air, and that's okay. We thank you guys so much for supporting the UpSet podcast. If it's Sunday,
it's time
to like and share. Okay, please like and share.
Yes,
hit the share button and send it out all over.
Yes, share this with others.
And at 8 o'clock, those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. Just thought I'd share that with everyone.
Is that why we have to close now? Okay.
I'm just quoting scripture.
No, but thank you guys so much. And we'll see you all back here next Sunday, same time, same place.
Next week, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.